Hey, welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
And I'm Joel.
And later on in this episode, we are going to be joined by Kareen Dunn from Kokomo Urban Outreach. But before we get into that, we have a quick article we want to talk about. It is an Outkick article titled "Twitter Reacts to OJ Simpson Death News." Last Thursday, it was announced that OJ Simpson had passed away after a battle with cancer at 76 years old. As you'd expect, the OJ Simpson death news had Twitter buzzing. To many, he was an all-time football great. To others, he was best known for beating a double murder charge via the best lawyers in the game. Reactions included tweets like, "May Nicole and Ron's families finally have peace." Another said, "Honestly, if you ignore the whole being a murderer thing, RIP to a true online poster." Another says, "Going to put a glove over my swollen hand to prove I'm totally innocent in honor of this certified king," along with many, many more responses making light of his death. So what was your reaction to finding out about OJ passing?
Oh, I was like, oh man, really? Because it was a couple years ago, it was like 2018, 2019. I went on like a deep dive about the OJ Simpson trial. There was this TV show called The American Crime Story by Ryan Murphy, I believe. It was all about the OJ Simpson trial. There was a Netflix documentary series called Made in America, the OJ Simpson story. And for me, I was just fascinated by OJ Simpson because I have these core memories being a kid and hanging out at my grandparents' house. And this is when the trial was on and my grandparents had CNN on all day long. And so I remember like not really understanding it, but it was in the background. And I was just blown away by this person and by this murder trial and how public it was and all of the hoopla around it. Like, I'm just old enough for it. Do you remember anything about this? Do you have any background on this at all?
No.
Oh man, it's something else.
I think it was honestly not until I was in college that I really understood like who OJ Simpson was, and like, I don't know, probably even later than that I realized he was a football player. Like,
yeah, that was
I
not
heard
the
about
thing.
Him.
The murder, right? Yeah, he killed his wife or something like that. That was all that like people knew about. And then I remember, watching these stories and hearing about his upbringing and him being a football star and him being a movie star and really, crossing the black-white divide in a lot of ways, and was very, very popular with black and white communities. And then there was the murder of Nicole and Ron, who was with Nicole at the time, and all that went along with it. So it's kind of crazy. To me, it was almost like closing a circle of this thing that was shaping my childhood, and then later I learned a ton about. And so here he passed away. I was like, man, it really closes the circle. What a complicated individual, and what a tragic reality of the murders and the justice system and all the uproar around it. So that was my reaction initially. And then like seeing the jokes and seeing the snark online was like, it just, something inside of me was like, oh, this is not right. And this just feels like we're making light of a person and their family and all that comes with it. And even that part that wants justice and wants there to be like a reckoning, it just doesn't quite satisfy when you put human face on it and think about real people. Yeah. And so that was how I reacted when I heard about it after seeing everything. It just, something inside of me was unsettled, seeing the way the internet can be so savage and play to our darkest impulses so often.
Yeah, I think it's just human nature to jump to making jokes about someone that we perceive as being evil when they pass away. But how should we as Christians react when someone who is controversial passes away?
Yeah, I am not of the case that, or I'm not of the persuasion that it's very Christian of us to gloat or to celebrate anyone's death and to celebrate anyone's demise. There's just, again, something that feels incongruent with the God who has given me so much grace and mercy to celebrate when somebody passes. Now, I think there can be a difference between justice and somebody being, put away for what they have done and so that other people can be safe. But like, man, someone dying and then celebrating that because we think they did some really bad things, it just feels gross to me. And then, you take a step back and you think, like, whatever you think about OJ Simpson, like, he has kids, he has grandkids, there are family members around him that I'm sure it's a very complicated situation for. And there are grieving people in this process, right? And then you think about Nicole and Ron, the people that were murdered in this case, like, it doesn't probably bring their families too much joy that this circle is closed as well. It also probably brings up more wounds. It's just messy in that way. And when I turn to think about, like, just the heart of God in this situation, a God who is loving, and a God who is for justice, but a God who's not vindictive. I'm just turned to a couple places in the scriptures, like Solomon writes in Proverbs. He says this: do not gloat when your enemy falls. When they stumble, do not let your heart rejoice. It's just this idea of, like, when we celebrate when somebody that is done wrong to us or is against us goes down, and that is not what God is calling us to do. That creates something in us that's ugly instead of actually helping us flourish. I think to one of Jesus' disciples, Peter, who, when he was writing a letter to early Christians, 2 Peter chapter 3, starting in verse 9, describing the heart of God, he says, the Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish. So the heart of God is not to, like, be vindictive and to get back at people, but the heart of God is love and patience and wanting to give people a chance to respond. So I think when I think about the way that we respond when controversial people or people that we think did something wrong, or even evil people, when they fall, ultimately we should ask the question, what does it produce in us when we celebrate that? Does it make us feel holier than thou, self-righteous, like we're on the right side of something and these people are getting something that they deserve? Or is it producing Christ-likeness? Is it producing a heart for mercy, a heart for love, a heart for justice and protecting the least of these? Or is it more of revenge? Like, what does it do in us when we gloat or make fun of or celebrate when somebody dies? I don't think it produces the good stuff. I think it produces things inside of us that ultimately poison us and that make us meaner and help us to not listen instead of being empathetic and listening to people. So, yeah, part of the reason I was dismayed by the response was just seeing, even if I would chuckle about a message or a tweet that I saw about OJ Simpson, I'm like, oh, what is that inside of me that's laughing about that? Is that really seeing the humanity in this situation, or is it me gloating over my enemy? Is it me wanting somebody to be punished instead of wanting there just to be protection and justice and mercy in these situations? So ultimately, on the whole, I'm going to fall on the side of, I think when we see somebody who's controversial, somebody who has done something wrong perish, we should not be on the side celebrating, jumping up and down. We should just be quiet, and we should think about the actual family members around the situation. We should think about the victims' families and how they might have reopened wounds, and try to move forward just listening and being quiet and thinking about the people on the peripheral that are probably hurting in a new way because of the public nature of this. And I think it just produces more of the Christ-like stuff than just jumping up and down saying, oh, he's burning in hell now, all that kind of stuff. Like, what does that create in us when we celebrate those kind of things? I think that's the question I wrestle with.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Kareen in just a minute.
All right, so now I'm really excited because we have, in air quotes, studio with us, Kareen Dunn, a good friend of mine that I have the privilege of serving with at Kokomo Urban Outreach, which is a nonprofit that I serve on the board of. And Kareen and I, we've been friends now for, I think, probably 6 or 7 years.
Yes.
And I've just been thinking for the longest time it would be such an interesting conversation to get him on the podcast, because I've learned, and I continue to learn so much from him and his journey, and I'm just inspired by him as a person and as a leader. And so, Kareen, welcome to the Atypical Talk podcast.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here. It's a blessing to be here for number one. So I want to say thank you for even inviting me onto this platform. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah, man. So, tell us a little bit about young Kareen. brought up? Like, where were you brought up, and what was life like, and where did that land you?
Got you. I'm originally from Flint, Michigan. I came to Kokomo about 2003 is when I arrived here. Growing up in Flint, where it was completely different than growing up, here. Yeah. Different jungles. I like to call it jungles. I didn't really identify that I was going through probably until I got here. When I got here, because the neighborhoods was different. So when I grew up, my neighborhoods that I lived in, the place that I lived in, everybody was going through poverty. So it didn't look like we was going through poverty because we always going through the same thing.
Yeah, so it was old poverty. So yes, it just felt like
everybody,
we're all in this together.
Yeah, it wasn't poverty because this was normal.
Yeah,
it's normal for everybody at 3 o'clock to start walking towards the mission. It was normal. So it wasn't. We didn't feel like we was actually going through a struggle because everybody was going through the struggle. I didn't clearly identify and recognize that I was going through a real struggle until I got to Kokomo. And then I seen different. See, that's why I tell the kids and I tell all of the mentors at the Kokomo Urban Outreach Up program, you don't know what you don't know. And that's one of them situations I didn't really know until I came here and then seen something different. Like, whoa, I was going through that. That wasn't right.
So teenage Kareen, what was life starting to get like as you started to become a teenager and had more freedom? What was that like?
Yeah, so it transitioned from Michigan. When I got here, I was about 13 years of age. So there were things in Michigan that we just couldn't do because the street code wouldn't let us do it. Therefore saying there were certain things in Flint that you couldn't do it. The people from the community wouldn't allow you to do it because you'll be messing up something that they had going on. So we had to be in compliance. Where when I got to Kokomo, there was no structure. I can do whatever I wanted to do. I can be whoever I wanted to be because they didn't come from what I come from and they didn't see what I seen. So I can come here and be anything. They had no structure, no nothing. So that's when I started to really get in trouble. Now I was getting in trouble in Michigan too, but when I got here, everything was so open for me. It was so easy for me to get access or so easy for me to influence or trick some other kids at doing stuff because I was more advanced than they was. So that's when my real trouble started. Education system wasn't the same. It's crazy. I got a story I want to talk about real fast about school. In Michigan, you have two type of families. You got the families who are using drugs, and you got the families that are selling drugs. And you can identify the difference of the families by the way that they dress. The ones who came from a family that was using, their clothes, you can see it clearly. The hand-me-downs, pay less, that's what they was wearing. But the ones who was dealing drugs, the parents, their kids come in Jordans and so on and so on. And they had this thing back when I was growing up called Joning. They talk about you. And the first thing they go to is talk about your shoes. They talk about your clothes. They talk about your physical, your appearance. So when I got to Kokomo, it was crazy. I got here. I wasn't even familiar with white people, to be honest with y'all. My neighborhood, my teachers, it was all black. I didn't have no white neighbors. So only time we actually seen white people was when we went to Social Security place or went to the mission or went to a place to get some food or something. That's the only time that we really talked or hung around white people. So I didn't really have a good understanding of white people. Only thing I knew of white people was what I seen on the movie Roots that they kept showing in school every day. So
that's all bad. Not a good look for white people.
No, not at all. So my impression was, and then when Mom said we come to Kokomo, I didn't know I thought Kokomo was like some type of amusement park or something it was going to. And we wind up moving here. And,
not quite an amusement park.
Yeah, I thought it wound up being an amusement park for me. I put myself in those situations as well. But when I got here, again, I wasn't really familiar with a different race. I was only familiar with blacks because that's what I was. My school predominantly black. My teachers were black. Everybody was black. My whole neighborhood was black. So that's all I knew was black. I didn't have a good understanding of a different culture. Not Mexicans, not white, not nobody. Just only black. I like to say I used to live in Africa, the real Africa, the straight up black. That's what it was for me. So when I got here, we lived on Marbury Street with some relatives that was up here. And I'm sitting on this porch, and I'm thinking, what that I got myself into. What is going on here? I see white people next to me. I see train tracks going right on the side of our house. I didn't know what was going on. And the first day of school, I went to Maplecrest School. I had a guy named I can't think his name, but he was deaf. Travis was his name. He was deaf, and I thought when I go to school, I'm for sure about to get bullied. They about to talk about me, probably even about to hang me. In my mind, I'm thinking this. So I get to school. Soon I walk through the building. There's a guy named Travis. Again, he was deaf, so he couldn't talk as good. He walked right up to me, put his hand out, and said, "My name is Travis." And that was my first real interaction with white people, right there, the real one. You know, I had interaction with older, grown white people because of the doctors and such, but not kids. And that was my first one. Was with him, and then it all changed for me.
Yeah.
My life kind of started. I started looking at things a little bit different and understanding stuff differently. I didn't do as good in school because again, it was open. The teachers were, what's that word, like passive, or what's that word? They wasn't mean. They like let stuff slide. Versus in Michigan, the teachers didn't let nothing slide. And the teachers will give you time at the time. Where in Michigan, you do one thing one time, one wrong, you're out of here. Mom, just come up here. You getting the whooping. That's just how that's going.
So it wasn't very strict.
No, at all.
And so because of that, what did that lead you to?
I was too open to everything. I was too open. It was too open for me, and I just didn't know I didn't know how to take it. And I just got to doing everything you can imagine to think of. I did everything.
And by everything, you mean some bad things?
Yes, everything times 10. I did it.
Yeah.
I was a kid with a advantage over the rest of the kids when it comes to the street life, because it was a big difference between this street, what they call a street here, and what I call a street there is completely different. So I had the real advantage of what I would say the real streets look like. And when they acted like they were street, I made sure that they knew that they wasn't. And
there's a difference between Flint Street and Kokomo Street.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Now, you have a lot of people that's not from here who come here, and then they bring the street mentality with them. But the actual natives from here, from Kokomo, they ain't street. They got it kind of easy around here.
Yeah.
And they got a lot. Kokomo is a beautiful place. They have a lot of help. And it's not everybody just not starving, So they got a lot of help. It's a lot of resources here. And in Flint, resources is slim because everybody's struggling. So, it's a little hard.
Yeah.
But
so you started going down a path that was not healthy for you, and you were good at it.
Yes.
Because you had this advantage from your earlier
but
childhood in Michigan.
I wouldn't say I was good because I kept getting in trouble, so I wasn't that good.
You weren't sneaky enough.
I was not sneaky. I think I just was. I think I was just. I would say I can't use that word, but I think I was just not scared. I didn't care about the consequences, right? When I first went to Kenzie the first time, they threaten you with Kenzie. That's why I tell.
Which is like a youth prison.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's certain parts of the Kenzie Center. You got the shelter care, residential, then you got the secure. The secure part is more like a jail cell. But, at first they threatened me, you're going to go to Kenzie, you're going to go to Kenzie, you're going to go to Kenzie. And I was like, well, I want to see it now. So then I went to Kenzie. And once I went to Kenzie and saw it was nothing for me. And I was like, okay, I've been here before. Say nothing I can't handle. So now I wasn't scared to get in trouble because I knew I was going already to Kenzie. Yeah. And I was getting right back out, so that's how they went for me.
Yeah, and then things escalated there a little bit later to where you really got into some trouble.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And so what was that like? Where were you at?
I started my career and the criminal activity about the age of 15 years of age. I was doing all type of things, and then also I had a shadow, which was my little brother, who followed me through those same trenches, and everything that I did, he did. They used to call us the Dunn boys. If one come, the other one's right behind them, and that's just how he was. But I did the boys' school. I did the Kenzie Youth Center thing. I did Thinking for a Change. I did the Show Cap. I did Scare Straight. I did every program that they had to offer at the Kenzie Youth Center. And then I graduated from Kenzie Youth Center. Then I went into boys' school. I did 2 terms of boys' school. I did that there. Boys' school will show you who you really is when it comes to, being tough, right? Because in Kokomo at the Kansas Youth Center, it's just you and the rest of the Kokomo kids. Well, when you go to boys' school, they're sending the top tier kids, the baddest kids from out of Indiana to one place. So now I'm in there with Gary, I'm in there with Fort Wayne, I'm in there with Indianapolis, I'm in there with South Bend kids. And these kids, I had a different outlook on Indiana. I thought all of Indiana was like Kokomo, and that's not the case. Them boys was pretty rough up there. They was 13 and 14 years old, and they was full-fledged addicted to, they called them wiki sticks, and that was a name for embalming fluid. You ever heard of those?
No.
The stuff that they use to put in people's bodies when you die. They was smoking that stuff, and they was mentally crazy in them boys' schools. And I got a chance to identify that too. A different environment, a different set. Now I was at this time here in Kokomo, I was a shark. And the Kokomo individuals was guppies. Well, when I got to boys' school, I was the guppy, and they were sharks. Absolutely. So that's just how that went. And
so did that experience change you?
Yes.
Or did that harden you even more?
So what it did was it first of all, it humbled me quickly, because again, I was no longer the predator. I was the prey. So it humbled me. But I got a thing about myself where I want to learn. So I learned, but not the good things, but I learned a lot from them, their stories and what they was doing, how they was moving, how they was acting. When I was in there and they asked you, where you from? And I say, Kokomo, they looked at me and laughed. Kokomo, what's that? We from Indianapolis, we from Fort Wayne, from Gary. These places where they known to get busy at as far as, rough areas. They're pretty rough around these places. And certain areas and certain, different places and towns. So I had to humble myself, first of all, and sit back and identify that I have no win in this war. I sit back and, again, I learned. I wanted to get out, so I was trying to do things and making sure that I didn't get in no trouble to get out, which that was kind of hard to do. It wasn't a lot of people coming from Kokomo to these boys' schools. It was a massive amount of people coming from Fort Wayne, from Gary. These are bigger cities, so they used to come in groups. And like the local people, Kokomo, Logansport, it was like 1 or 2 of us. It was like massive groups of them. So, if they wanted somebody to pick on, it's going to be us, because we had nobody to have our back like they had groups. So that what got me in a lot of trouble is because I am a fighter. I fight. That's what I will do in a heartbeat. So when that situation came, I always gave in to it every single time. I identified that they were trying to trick me into staying there longer, and that they just needed somebody to, and I was that guy that was like, well, if it's on, let's get it on. And that what got me in a lot of trouble. But it helped me today. When I talk to the kids now, I can talk about them type of stories, and, every fight ain't worth fighting.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. So when did you get out of boys' school?
Yes.
What happened next?
I got out of boys' school, and I got right back in trouble. This time, the judge, and I had a very, very fair. Can I say his name or no?
Yeah.
The judge.
Yeah.
I had a judge. His name was Eric May. That was my judge. He gave me every opportunity, every chance that I can possibly have to be a better person or see something different. He did everything. Everything. I'm talking about opportunity, chance. He gave me more chance than I think he should have gave me. Now that I'm older and grown, I wouldn't have gave myself that many chances, period. But he did, though. And he always talked about the good in me. Every time I got locked up in the Kansas, I always did really good, because it was structure there, something I never had before. It was structure. I had to make my bed. I had to be up on this time. It was structure. That's something that I never had in my life before. And I always did really good with structure. A lot of kids right now in the Kokomo Urban Outreach program, they do really good in our program because of the structure. Yeah. A lot of time they come for the money, but in the long run, they coming for that structure part. And that's what the Kansas Youth Center was. It was structure that I never seen, and I kind of liked it. So he gave me chance after chance again, and then he finally said, well, Kareen, he said there's nothing that juvenile judicial system can do for you. So we are done with you here. You're from here on out, you go to jail at 17. And they waived me, basically, saying you on your own. I want to say 3 weeks after I got out, boom, my first case I caught, attempted murder. that situation happened, and it was a situation where I was accused of something, and I didn't do this one for sure. This time I really didn't do it, and they found out that I didn't do it, and they dismissed the charges because I really didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then right after that, now I done went to Kinsey straight to jail. So now I'm in jail, and it's now my frame is a little different because I'm 18 years old, 130 soaking wet. These guys are, these grown men in here. Mm-hmm. I got in there, and I learned all type of different things in there. I got out again. I got bonded out, and that's when my life really changed right there, when I got out of that situation, because now I done mastered Kinsey. I done mastered boys school. I'm not scared of jail at all. My next step can only be two things: prison or death, period. And I feel like, well, Kinsey was just like boys school. Boys school was just like the jail, so that means prison probably gonna be the same thing. So now I ain't scared of that.
It doesn't even feel like it's that big of a
so
step
now
up.
I'm not even scared of that no more. And I don't have no guidance to show me nothing different or anything of that nature. I don't got no other tools. Only tools I got is the tools that I was taught and that I choose to learn. Now, I had opportunities to learn different things. And I want to be clear about something. Every decision I made in my life, it was my choice. Because God gave everybody a conscience of right and wrong. I just chose wrong every time. That was me. It wasn't because of my environment or because how I was raised. It was I made the choice. When it's all said and done, the choices that I made in my life, I made them. Mm. So that's how that went. And that's when I got out again, and I caught another case. This time I caught attempted murder on a guy that I did do. I did that. I went to trial. I got found. What's the word they used? It was a hung jury. They couldn't find me guilty. They couldn't find me not guilty.
Oh, wow.
And I was young and dumb, by the way. Young and dumb, for sure. I know I done it. I don't know why I was in there playing like that there, but I did. And got lucky and didn't get found guilty. And they wound up coming back to me and giving me a better plea bargain that kind of was like a slap on the wrist compared to what I was supposed to got for what I did. And once I done that, I took the plea bargain. I went to prison. This is the last time I got in there. This time it was a bit different. I skipped some parts, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got in prison. I was in there. This time it was different because I had somebody, and that was my wife that I'm currently with now. I never been in a relationship before. She was my only girlfriend that I ever had. I had other women, but it wasn't no relationships. It was just, mm-hmm. Yeah. But this one was my girlfriend. She showed me that she loved me and that she actually cared about me. So it was a little different. Mm-hmm. Usually I get locked up, I just cut them off because I can't control what she's doing on the outs, so I just let that go. I've seen too many guys come in there, stress themselves out, commit suicide because of the woman on the streets. So I wouldn't want to be that guy, so I just go ahead and just break relations and ties with you. No calling, no phone calls, no texts, no letters, no
just
nothing.
Ghosted them.
It's over.
Yeah.
We're done.
But this was different with this girl.
It was different because I had her, my wife. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated her. So I didn't want to get in no more trouble in there because that was going to make my time longer. If it make my time longer, that means she got to wait longer in her life. I appreciated her, so I made sure that I did things not to get in trouble. Mm-hmm. I made sure I wasn't into no fighting or nothing like that. I wasn't into nothing I ain't supposed to be doing. I actually got time cuts while I was in there to try to get out. Never did that before, but that was my first time because I actually...
You had something on the other side that you were looking forward to. Somebody, mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had a person that cared about me. I had a person that showed me beyond family. Family is different than a girlfriend but it's different because your family kind of gotta love you. Mm-hmm. Somebody else really don't. And she chose to love me. She chose to go through the mud with me. She chose to stick on side of me. Yeah. So I felt really good about that. I appreciated her. So that's why I chose to do the right things to get out for her, and I did. I got a year and a half knocked off my sentence from time cuts that I did, and I got out. My first day got out, I was scared to death. I was scared to death because I talked a good game when I was locked up on that phone. Yeah, baby, when I get out, I'm going to be good to you. Yeah, I ain't going to get in no more trouble. I talked a really good game for a couple of years.
Yeah,
I was talking.
But you didn't really know how to.
Nope.
Not at all.
I was just talking.
Yeah.
So when I got out, I was like, oh man, I got to live this. But everything that I said, I got to live now. And that's going to be hard to do because this is the road I never traveled on. So I don't know what I'm about to get ready to do. So I got out. I was on house arrest. I had 5 years to do on house arrest, in-home detention. And my in-home officer was Chad. Good, really good dude. Mm-hmm. Really good dude. But he told me one day I did like 2 years or a year in the house. I didn't go out the house because I didn't want to get in trouble. Once again, I know trouble don't find me, I find the trouble. And I know that. But I know I don't want to get locked up either. I know that. So now I'm trying to find things to do to keep me out of trouble. And what I found out was just be still, right? Because if I would have got to get active and moving around, I'd start slipping back into my old self and repeating the stuff that I used to do. And it takes one little thing to trigger anything to go back to your addiction or wherever the case may be. So I was just real still. And then my probation officer told me, hey, you got to go volunteer at the Kokomo Urban Outreach UP program building.
So this was part of your probation?
Yes. No, this was me. He said he had to reintegrate me back into society. Yeah. And I argued with him. I said, well, I'm doing good. I'm not in trouble.
Yeah, I'm staying out of trouble.
I ain't causing you no problems. Why are you messing with me?
Yeah.
He said, well, it's my job to make sure that you are reintegrated into society. Mm-hmm. And by sitting at home ain't doing it. You got to get up and got to get out.
I think that's so cool because I think so often when people are trying to change, we only think about removing bad things and we don't think about replacing those things. And for you staying at home, you were staying out of trouble and you removed those destructive patterns, but you hadn't replaced it with anything yet.
Absolutely.
And your life really changes. And honestly, the lives of hundreds of people in our community, maybe thousands, change when you listen to your your guy and you go and you start making new patterns. So you went to volunteer at the Kokomo Urban Outreach, and how many years ago was that now?
7.5, 8.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
And now you are the program director of Kokomo Urban Outreach, of the UP programs. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but you're the co-author of your first book.
Yes.
That is now released across the country.
It's moving.
It's moving.
Yes, it's moving.
And you help lead a staff team with a mission to make a huge difference in the youth in our community. And
Absolutely.
So, man, I just think it's so incredible that from the pain that you walked through, the decisions that you made that led to some pain in your life and other people's lives too.
Absolutely.
But none of that was wasted in a way that like you didn't just go do some kind of job, but you're like working and serving the youth in our community so that they see there's a different path for them. Briefly, can you tell us just about the UP programs?
Yes.
And what you're trying to accomplish?
Our mission is to make sure every kid transitions successfully into adulthood by teaching them to be respectful, responsible, reliable, and ready. That's our mission. We want to make sure kids got the tools that they need to be successful. Again, we go back to my childhood. If you don't know, you don't know. You know, I was only given one set of tools. But when I got to the Kokomo Urban Outreach, I got a whole different set of tools. It taught me how to be respectful. It taught me how to be on time. It taught me why I need to be on time. And I didn't understand that then because I had no reason to be on time. I was living in a free life. I can get up and go to sleep when I choose to. Now it's a bit different because I know I got to get up. I got to be on time to go to work. I know. I told somebody I got to be there. I got to be there. I know now, but I didn't know then. And half of the kids, again, we assume that they know, but they really don't be knowing.
In their homes,
they don't know.
They they don't see mom or dad doing that, and it's not required of them at home. Then what do they know?
Absolutely.
I think I remember hearing this this leadership thought a couple years ago that really struck me. It said that most everyone is doing the best that they know how. The best they know how right now. And for me, I'm so much less judgmental towards people if I can keep that in front of me. To be like, they're doing the best that they know how. Absolutely. And a lot of times that's just what was modeled to them.
Absolutely.
That they weren't handed tools that maybe I was handed.
Yes.
And so don't judge them from where they are. Judge them from where they came from to help them, go.
Absolutely.
And so that's an incredible thing. So in the program, There's a weekly huddle where there's like some life lessons, some life skills that are taught.
Yes.
And then they go out in teams and do work in our community. What kind of work do they do? And
So
do they get paid for the work? Tell everybody about that.
Okay, so we got a thing called a huddle, which you just explained. A huddle is a time where it's a mandatory meeting that they got to come to, and that's when we have certain talks and topics. We give them information about what's going on in the future, what programs we got coming up. We talk about topics, depression, how you deal with depression, or what are you most worried about for the future because of the new world order, what's going on, inflation and everything like that. We try to stay in tune with the kids, like what they got going on right now.
Yeah, and I know mental health was a big deal that we talk about in huddles too, right? Yeah.
Mental health, that's a mandatory situation because a lot of them going through it and they don't know how to cope with it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them going through it and they don't know who to talk to about it. They don't want to be embarrassed or they don't want to get made fun of. But we have created an environment for our kids where they can just come out and say whatever they want to say without being judged, laughed at, or anything. Mm-hmm. So we created that environment for them. So now they just come out. And it's a gift and it's a curse. It's a gift because we got kids we got an environment that's open to kids speaking how they feel without being judged, or they just spit it out there. It's a curse because once you heard something,
you got to do something about it.
Yeah, you heard it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you hear things that you just don't want to hear.
Yeah.
About a child or what they're going through, and some of that stuff you just don't want to hear.
Because you just wish it wasn't true.
You wish it wasn't true, but if a kid mustered up to say what that kid just said, that means he ain't saying it for attention.
Yeah.
And this some stuff that happens, and again, it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
Because once you heard it, and you got to sleep with that. You got to wake up to that. And, it's on your mind. Some of the things that people say just be so hurting to your heart. You wish you never heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so there's the huddle that time, and then there's work days.
Yes.
Explain the work days and what happens there.
So after huddle, you have to pick a work day. That'll be Thursday, Friday, or Monday. We work from 4 to 6, 2 hours you work. You're going to come in. You're going to get your gloves. You're going to sign your name in like you was clocking in on the job. We're going to go out. We go out to the community. We rake leaves. We do mulch. We do gravel. We pull weeds. We do demolition work for us, like tearing down decks or whatever the case may be. We do that type of stuff. We plant flowers. We do any outside gardening work. We can do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid 20 points for that. 20 points is the same thing as $20. And we work off a point system. They get paid. They only can take their points off in increments of 50. So 25, 50, 75, 100. That's how we pay them. And that's pretty much how.
Yeah, and so like they're actually working and they're receiving something, and people that donate to Kokomo Urban Outreach, we're helping to fund that so that they can get dignity and find a work ethic in that model. So it's a really incredible thing. Why don't you tell us how many youth are we serving week in and week out?
Yeah, we about 3 plus.
300.
Yes, 300 plus kids.
Between
Absolutely.
The huddles and
the mini ups
and
just to throw that out there, in our program, we don't give away anything for free. Mm-hmm. They work for everything that they got coming. In life, when you get adulthood, when you reach adulthood, nobody's going to give you anything free. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to work for that. Even if you play crazy and get a check, you got to work for that too. You got to go in there in the disability office and play like you're sick too, so you still got to work. But in our program, we don't give them anything for free. Now, we do make it very affordable for them. So, for instance, we have hygiene products, we have clothing, we have shoes, socks, and stuff that they need at home. We have them type of things there too. We don't charge them a boatload of money. We charge them something just so they can feel good about they pay for it themselves.
Some skin in the game.
Yes, we don't want our kids to have to rely on the government. And our kids got big dreams. And, a lot of them kids say, I want me a mansion. I want me a Lamborghini. Yeah. And I let them know clearly, if you think about going on any type of government assistance, you might forget about that because you ain't going to have to be able to afford any of that. So if you want this type of stuff, these are the things that you're going to have to do. You have to go get a job. You got to be consistent. You got to be reliable. You got to be ready to roll when it's time to roll. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're teaching our kids now. If they don't work on a job site, they fired immediately. Yeah. If you're playing around, if you're not representing the UP program like you're supposed to be doing, if you're not doing your job, if you're not being safe, you're fired. When I say you're fired, that means you're fired for the day. That's all. You're not fired for life. Yeah. We don't kick kids out of our program. We never tell a kid they have to leave. They can do something, come back the next day. That's on them. But they can come back. We'll never kick anybody out the program. You're always welcome to come into our doors. The next day, try it again. The next day, just keep on trying. Eventually, you'll get it. But that's how the point system works and how the work system works.
Yeah. Have you seen kids come in that you felt like they were on the same path as you, and you saw Kokomo Urban Outreach kind of change that path for them?
I got time for a quick story.
Yes,
Yeah.
The reason why I even considered or opened up about being a part of the program, I was forced to come there. It wasn't free of choice. Like, I didn't just volunteer. Like, I want to go to Kokomo. No, my probation officer said you got to go there. I didn't want to get locked up, so I went there. Now, while I was there, mind you, I just got out of prison with a bunch of men. At the time, Kokomo Urban Outreach was all boys. So now I'm back around another group of boys where I don't want to be at. So I just used to sit in the middle of all the kids. They didn't look at me as a authority figure, because I never talked to them. I never nothing with them. I just was here because he told me to be here, and eventually I'm gonna go home and we're gonna be done with this. So I didn't talk to them. I didn't raise no alarms that they had to be quiet or whisper around me. So if I'm in a mix of 60 kids, you can imagine some of the stuff that they were saying on a regular basis. Some doing drugs, some having sex, some about to go rob. They just saying everything and anything. They just kids too, so they just blabbing on. And I was there for about 6 months before I even showed them who I was. Or, hey, I'm an authority figure right here on side of you. We talking about robbing something. And I did one time, and I spoke up because a kid was talking about doing something, and I was pretty convinced that he was going to do it. And what he was doing was it was pretty stupid, but I didn't feel like I was no role model because of my background and because of the things that I've done in my life. I didn't feel like I had a right to tell nobody anything, so I never said nothing. But this day, I don't know, I must was feeling good or something, I don't know. And I just turned around and turned to the side and told him, can I say what I said? Ain't no cuss word though.
Yeah.
All right. I turned around and I said to him, because he's talking about going to rob a store. And I said, if you do that, you're getting locked up, right, stupid? I said it just like that. And he looked back, him and his friends looked back at me. They all looked surprised because I never said nothing to nobody. And they forgot I was even here from the looks of it. And he kind of waved me off, and he went out that same day and he done it. Next week, again at Huddle, I sat back in the same spot I sit at every week. And he came back again, right to me and said, hey, I done that situation. I said, okay, what happened? I got locked up. I said, I told you, stupid. I didn't tell you that already?
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, at that moment, that day, is when my light switch clicked on. Because I said, wait a sec. All the stuff they talking about, I done already done all this already. I done it 10 times over. I know the answers to all the stuff they talking about they about to get ready to do. I know from the time he get locked up, from when he get detained, from when they have the arraignment I know the whole situation. I know if he keep going down, where he gonna go. He gonna go from Kansas. He gonna go to boys' school. He gonna go to jail. I know his whole layout for him in his life. I know the answer finally for a change. And growing up in school, and growing up in class school, I was a low academic. I couldn't read that good. I couldn't spell that good. So I did everything in my power to get out of class. I never in my life raised my hand. When the teacher say, anybody know the answer? I never raised my hand, ever, never in school, never in my whole life. And, when I got to the Kokomo Urban Outreach, I finally had the answers. I knew the answers, and it felt really good for me. And that's what clicked my light switch on, because I felt like I can be a part of something. I can talk about the stuff that I went through, and maybe some people could benefit from it. I can tell them where I went wrong at, or I can understand the struggle that you're going through, because I went through that same struggle. I know what it's like not having no food. I know what it's like not having the good clothes. I know what it's like having your family members on drugs. I understand. I can talk about it with you. I can sit on side of you and relate to you in that type of way. And the parents, they trust me. I go to the homes. I can talk to the parents in a different way that the schools or the kids or the jails just can't do. I can. Because, again, I'm not judgmental. I've been through it too. Who am I to judge? Yeah, only person I believe in this world that can judge is God, and I'm not him. I don't claim to be him. I don't want to be perfect. That ain't me. I'm Kareen. That's it.
Yeah. Well, man, thanks so much. I know we could talk for more and more about your work at the outreach. I do want to talk just for a few minutes about your first book.
Let's do it.
It's a children's book, The
Yes.
Talking Toolbox.
Yes.
So you co-wrote it with Jeff Newton,
Yes.
the founder of Kokomo Urban Outreach, your good friend and mine as well. Tell us just a little bit about what your hope and dream is for the
Yes.
book, and who's the book for, and what does it teach?
The book is for the whole world. That's what it's for. Yeah, the book is
marketed for everybody.
The whole
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
is for everybody, because in life, everybody gonna have to be respectful, responsible, reliable, and ready. In life, they gonna have to be, no matter where you at. Even if you're on a job site, if you're at home, if you're at school, wherever you got to be at, those 4 principles you're gonna have to be. So we made this book designed off of our 4 R's. Is our creed, is in our UP program. Teach kids how to be respectful, responsible, reliable, and ready. It's just something to give them some happiness and some easy way for them to learn. It's actually 2 books in one, because everybody learn different too. Jeff learns from reading. I don't. I learn from seeing stuff.
Yeah.
And I can learn from reading, but it'd be a little bit more difficult for me. But if I see something, boom, I got it. Now, vice versa, if Jeff sees something, he might not get the picture.
Yeah.
He might be like, well, I don't see that, and I do. So everybody learned different. So we made the book and it's 2 different books. The first beginning of the book, yes, it's all reading, and then you go to the back of the book, it's more pictures, and you can point out who's being respectful, who's being responsible, and it's in those pictures on there that shows people how to look at the respectful, responsible, reliable, the whole situation. So the book is for everybody, kids, adults. It's for everybody. The goal, the small goal, is to get the book around the whole world. Wait. To get the book around the whole United States.
Yeah.
That's the
In every
small
state,
goal.
yeah,
Every
yeah.
single state. That's the small goal, which we are doing a really good job at that right now.
Yeah.
Really, really good job at that. But the next goal is to be the world. We do have a couple books going already out the country already. So we moving on the goals, and it's going down. We're working on getting them into all the schools. They're in the public libraries here in Kokomo right now. You can go to the library, either one of them, and check out the Talking Toolbox is in there. We're working on getting the books into the schools. We have a couple supporters who has contributed and donated books to the classroom. As soon as we get the approval from the schools, they'll be in the classrooms.
Yep.
So we trying to get it popping.
Yeah, so we'll have a link in the show notes where to purchase and learn more about the book. But it's called the Talking Toolbox. It's a book for kids.
Yes.
It's a book for everybody learning about what it means to be responsible, reliable.
And ready.
No, there's one more.
It's
There's 4.
respectful, responsible.
That's where I messed up.
Got you.
It's a book for everyone, teaching them how to be respectful, responsible, reliable, and ready.
There you go.
Which is
There you
something-
go.
I'm getting it. I'm
Yes.
getting it. So, man, thanks so much, Kareen. Thanks so much
thank
for
you.
sharing your story. And, man, it's just inspirational hearing what can happen when we just say yes and we look at our past experience not as something that holds us back, but something that can actually help others. And you have an incredible story of that. That's really inspiring to me, man. So thank you.
I want to say thank you as well for the ones who are listening. Dare to be different. Try something different. You never know, it might change your life. I tried something different, and I'm in a good situation right now. So try something different. It's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any topics or questions, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Atypical Talk Pod. And you can subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to get updates when new episodes go live. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there, down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.